morning, everybody. Welcome. We'll give it just a minute for folks to log on. See a few more trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started. So, good morning. Welcome to the April 24th iteration of our Tariff and Trade webinar. My name is Michelle Conley. I'm the Senior Director of Partnerships at World Trade Center Utah. I think most of you have probably joined us before on these webinars since we've had them every week for over a year now. But we host these every Friday morning to provide updates to the business community of the latest happenings with tariff changes and trade happenings. These webinars are recorded and posted on our YouTube page, so you're welcome to reference them there. We also love to make this really interactive, so please feel free to jump in at any point with questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure to get to those. This week was an important week, obviously with tariffs, with the opening of the IEEPA application. Excited to have a really great speaker today joining us, Carla Leslie, the General Manager of Mainfreight, the Salt Lake City location of Mainfreight Americas, which is a global transportation, logistics, supply chain, and storage company, is joining us today to share some insights into what they're seeing on their end as this application opens, and also share some of the other capabilities that Mainfreight has that may be able to help your company. Thanks to the Inland Port for connecting us with Mainfreight for today's connection. Of course, before we hear from Carla, we'll hear from Ben Kolendar, our Chief of Staff, who will share the week's latest updates on what's happening with tariffs. And before that, I wanted to share a short little quip. This week, I had the opportunity to attend the World Trade Center Association Global Forum in Philadelphia, which is a gathering of all of the different World Trade Centers around the world. If you didn't know, there are actually over 300 World Trade Centers. And World Trade Center Utah was asked to come speak about what we've done to help Utah businesses navigate tariffs, specifically share about the tariff dashboard that Ben created and Lena helps maintain, and our weekly webinar, which our colleague Andrea helps manage. So it was a really fun opportunity to be able to share what we're doing in Utah and yeah, hear from other World Trade Centers about what they're doing. So really grateful to have that opportunity and especially to highlight the work of our team. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the leader of all of this, Ben, to share what happened this week.
Thanks, Michelle. And you give me way too much credit. This is like an all hands team effort, World Trade Center, including yourself, to make this happen. So thanks for everybody for joining. I'm going to share my screen. And for those of you joining us for the first time, this is our tariff dashboard. I'm sure everybody here has seen it before. WTCutah.com/tariffs if you want to follow along. There's also a link here that you can share with others who may be interested in benefiting from this information on a weekly basis. So I'm just going to dive straight into updates. We've got a few significant updates that we're tracking hot off the press from late last night, early this morning, depending on where you're at, was the US and UK are having a bit of a debate over digital taxes. And so the president had made a threat that there will be a significant um, tariff on the UK if they do not remove their digital taxes on the United States and United States companies. Um, a lot of these immediate threats right now, we kind of look at them and we say we don't really have a timeline. We don't know. They're probably a little far out if they even happen, such as the Iran threat. This one is significant because it has an open 301. So this 301 had been in place, was initiated in February of 2025 on digital taxes, and the UK was named alongside Spain, Turkey, Italy, Austria, and France. We know Canada's in that bucket as well on digital tariffs, and we'll get into that more in just a minute, or digital taxes. So, all to say, when we hear the threat on the UK, this is one to really pay close attention to because implementation can happen quicker than some of these other ones that aren't necessarily tied to an active investigation. So we'll continue to update as we see formal documentation come out on that, but as of now, Customs hasn't released any formal language on that matter. So the second update, this is a little bit of housekeeping. So, and this could either go on steel and aluminum or the autos. We probably should have put it on autos, but we'll make some adjustments. There was an update this week if you are in the auto industry on, if everyone recalls, Proclamation 10984, which is President Trump essentially, creating a mechanism for refunds for cars that had certain made in America provisions. So this tariff had a piece of a rebate, an offset, so to speak, and this notification is like, hey, um, if you are interested in seeking that rebate, this is how you do it. And so if you are in that industry, pay close attention to this, look at that and see if you qualify and make sure that you apply for it in a timely manner. The next update, and I know we're going to go into this more in just a minute, but we've got the refund system became available this week. So this is something we've been talking about for a while, anticipating the April 20th date. So, we've got all of this information that we've been notifying folks of here in the CSMS section, whether it's the introduction, further details, and then the opening of the portal. And as you can see, where we were just at is we've got the CSMS with all kinds of training materials, FAQs, information if you're getting rejected, and some webinars as well to maybe participate in if you're hoping to learn more. And we'll have more content here today as well. Moving on to the next update, we've got, and this is where I'm going to spend a little bit of time today in terms of USTR and some of the Canada-Mexico discussions coming up. So, as everybody knows, the joint review is up in July. We've had content on this webinar several times relating to USMCA and the upcoming discussions. As a part of that joint review, Ambassador Greer was in front of Congress this week. And if you aren't aware, there's a great YouTube clip. It's 5 hours long of the congressional discussion with Jameson Greer. I did listen to all of it except like the last 15 minutes. I couldn't fit in the last 15 minutes, but had it going in the background. And there's some really good content if you're doing business in Canada or Mexico or thinking about moving operations to Canada or Mexico that is relevant for your business in a deep level because congressional members were pressing Ambassador Greer highlighting certain vulnerabilities or benefits to the current trade regime, and it gives a lot of context. And just maybe a couple of quick takeaways. First, Mexico is engaging in a substantive way. They're looking at the trade regime in a way that is more US aligned than, let's say, Canada. So we hear a lot of the bilateral discussions instead of trilateral for USMCA. A lot of us may be wondering where that's coming from. Mexico is doing the things to align more with the US, and Canada is, looking at ways to still engage in the global trading system as it, let's say, was years ago in terms of opening up their markets, which is a concern for the US as it applies to maybe manufacturing and doing tariff inversion in Canada and hurting US jobs. This is the theme, this is the discussion talking point, so to speak. Um, it highlights in great detail some considerations if you're thinking of doing business in either Canada or Mexico and maybe what the future of USMCA looks like. So, and some of the joint review and announcements, you see a lot of positive press. We've shared this before. Mexico's really making progress on their deal, whereas Canada maybe is not because of some of those dairy inversion issues and and market access to some folks like China. So there's the last piece I'll say is we've got a link to the congressional testimony here on our dashboard. We're just going to give ourselves a plug and just share some gratitude for Congressman Blake Moore. We got a shout out at the 4 hour, 0 minute, and 30 second mark from Blake Moore talking to Ambassador Greer. And so if you are so interested in diving in, feel free to do so and pay attention to around the 4 hour mark. Um, the next bit of updates I'm going to dive into quickly, and this is just housekeeping. Even when there's no update, it's an update. So on the 122 tariffs, we continue to track those. There's always this open threat we're monitoring to go up to the 15%. We're currently at 10. Have seen no formal documentation on that front yet. And we also continue to monitor some of the court cases, which we had the oral arguments on April 10th. We still await some formal action from the Court of International Trade on what that may result in terms of the legality of the 122 tariffs. Finally, and I referenced this just a little bit earlier, the where did we go? Oh, here we go. The 50% tariff on nations supplying Iran with weapons. So we continue to monitor this. As you can see, this was announced on April 9th, though this does not have any formal documentation from customs or others, and we're still looking out for what vehicle might be used to make this tariff go into effect. We've seen none of that yet, so we'll continue to monitor. But those are the updates for this week. That was a lot. I'm sorry if I was maybe overly technical or overly explanatory on some of those, but hopefully it's helpful as our businesses navigate some of this tariff process.
Thanks so much, Ben. I don't think you ever over-explain. That's part of why you're so valuable on these, is you make it so the rest of us can understand. I did laugh out loud when you said pay attention at the 4 hour mark on the 5 hour testimony with Ambassador Greer. I'm so curious to know how many other people on this call will listen to that 5 hour testimony. But it was a really nice shout out to World Trade Center Utah. I want to make a quick plug that's kind of related to what you were sharing. For those that don't know, our biggest event of the year is coming up on May 6th and 7th. It's our Crossroads of the World International Trade Summit. And the reason I bring it up is because the panel that I personally am most excited about is the negotiators of the original USMCA. So Robert Lighthizer, excuse me, former U.S. Trade Representative, Mary Ng, who was the former Minister of International Trade for Canada, and Jesus Seade, who is currently Mexico's ambassador in China, but at the time was the chief negotiator of USMCA. So it's going to be a really fascinating discussion. Lots of other great content at the summit as well, but that in particular, I think would be of interest to this group. It looks like there's a link in the chat for that. We also have a discount code available, so would love to have you join. With that, want to welcome Carla from Mainfreight to the webinar, and excited to hear her insights on everything that's been going on lately with tariffs. So welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Michelle. So I just wanted to introduce myself to everybody. My name's Carla Leslie. I am the branch manager of Mainfreight in Salt Lake City. As mentioned earlier, we are a full service international supply chain company. We cover everything from international freight to warehousing and then the final mile. We've been here in the market roughly 7 years. So we got in and got our feet wet right before COVID basically shut everything down. Since then, we've focused a lot on building the team, getting out there, letting everybody know who Mainfreight is. We are a global company that's been in business for over 45 years. So we do know what we're doing, and we have a great support team behind us. The biggest shift that we're seeing right now is that global trade isn't just about the cost and the transit time anymore. It's more about the risk, the compliance, and the visibility that we're offering to our customers. So, with regulations like the IEPA Act and then how everything's expanding, it's really based off of not just how the goods move anymore, and it's more on like where they're going and who you're working with as a partner to bring all that together. Our role here is to help our customers navigate through the complexity with confidence and then stay ahead of just the risk before they become bigger problems in a sense. Um, yeah, so if there's any questions around basically what's going on with this, we could connect more on a personal level. I just wanted to get out here and introduce myself and introduce Mainfreight and then answer any questions that I can for the broader audience.
Michelle, I do see a question in the Q&A. It's related to the promo code that you talked about for the summit. So maybe I'll suggest reaching out to the info@wtcutah.com email and requesting it that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Okay. All right. So Carly or Carla, I just wonder in all this volatility, you're seeing all of this. Um, you mentioned the risk, the shifting to risk, and what tariffs looked like, let's say 2 years ago versus today. I wonder what's that done for your operations, or how much can you dive into maybe your services around accounting for that? What's that experience look like for a company working with you guys? Maybe 2 years ago versus today with all the changes in the tariff world and what you guys are doing to respond and help companies thrive in an area where it's really tough to maybe thrive right now.
Yeah, when you look at companies that are trading on a global level, it's not just about how we're being impacted here in the United States with the tariffs. We also take into consideration the impacts in the other countries, because they're also increasing their tariffs and there's consistent changes. What helps us is just the overall, like we do operate we're not like a siloed company. We're operating within all the same systems. So we're able to capture that data and then push it out to our customers. So if you take, for instance, like all of our brokers have been particularly busy this week because we have the ability to pull all the data out of our system and then send it over to them, which some of the feedback I've been getting is once you get in there, if you have all the data, it's not difficult to file everything. So that is one benefit to how we've managed it, and we got ahead of it by we started reaching out to our customers when we knew that this was coming up, asking if they need the data, so we could just start pushing it out to them as opposed to last week everybody getting prepared for it and then us behind it. So we did really try to stay ahead of the game as a company and like globally. So currently we're just navigating through it, and then we're also talking to our counterparts overseas and in different locations on what they're needing so we can make sure that our systems are up to speed to support the dump of data that needs to come out in order for them to apply for this.
That's great. And I'm actually going to share my screen on something for just a minute. We were talking, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. We were just having a conversation though before about generally timelines. One of the questions I'm just going to anticipate from our audience is, what are the timelines? And we were doing this in the pre-session. Oh, well, wrong CSMS. Where is it? I'm going to do this real time, so hopefully I can not stumble too much. But, what are the timelines? And rather than speculate, which we still can, we're having a little bit of a conversation about what to expect. And we have some language specifically from customs I thought I might highlight here, that a lot of the refunds that folks are going to be looking for, customs gives a 60 to 90 day frame, which includes a 45-day review of CBT or CBP, sorry, and additional time to process the refund through Treasury. So I would say, this is very direct language from customs on what to expect. But trust that as appropriate for your business operations in terms of managing your risk. But we do have some timeline out there, at least from customs, on unliquidated entries. So hopefully
Yeah.
that's helpful in heading off some questions about what's the timeline. Say we have all of our information. Um, what's that take? So just one thing in our back and forth that makes
Yeah, they do mention the 60 to 90 days, Ben. Something that we like to be mindful of, or when I'm out there communicating with customers, is though it says 60 to 90 days, and we all hope that that's the case. Once customs does publish it, I mean, we don't really provide a lot of detail until it's published by customs, because then we know it's coming directly from them. But in different situations over the years, I have seen refunds for other, instances take a lot longer for importers to get back. So that is something to keep into consideration. Is yes, it is posted at 60 to 90 days, but it is new.
sense.
How the system's going to handle it, or once everything starts getting in there, we've been advising our customers that that is what's posted, but in the past we have seen it could take a lot longer.
I would imagine this is also one of those things, and this is just us spitballing. You don't need to comment on this one way or another, but having been involved in government processes before, I'm just speculating here that this is one of those things where the quality of your data is going to make a big difference. Because if you have an error in there, say it took 43 days for customs to review and then come back and say you had an error. Well, then you got to go back and submit again and wait another 45 days. And so this is one of those things where I would imagine when folks are looking at, oh, this could take years, it's like, oh, shoot, we submitted the wrong document again or something like that. And then you are stuck in another waiting period. Just I might advise to say, look really carefully at your submission, have a high quality submission, and working with a partner who can help you prepare that is not a horrible idea if you're a bit complex in how you do it. The process seems to be simple, and sometimes what happens is user error when the process is that simple because you can just easily upload the wrong document or leave a field, absent or something like that that can result in substantial delays.
Yeah, it definitely could, and that is something that we think about on a daily basis. So when it comes to how we are as a company and what we continue to do by upgrading our systems and just the amount of data that we could push out to our customers, when it customs related, we're very strict on compliance across the board. No matter which region of the world you're operating in with us, it's something that is at the forefront. So the fact that we do have the ability to go into our system and pull this data based off of the entries that were already transmitted is really beneficial. And we'll continue to do that and push it out to our customers. And so far, everything's been working well on our side. The data that we have pushed out and the customers who have already gone in and filed, they haven't had many questions or complaints. So it is something that you definitely want to make sure that is at the forefront, because I just feel like as time goes by, it's going to make it a lot more of like a nailed down process that we're going to have to follow. So compliance should be at the forefront of everybody out there who wants to expand globally.
Yeah.
Carla, have you seen or heard of companies that, this just opened this week, have companies already been able to get their application for the refund submitted, or is it a longer process than that? I'm curious if anyone who's on here, if you've already been able to get that done, or how lengthy of a process or how tedious it is to get that submitted.
And before you answer that, Carla, can I just say we were talking beforehand that there should be a competition with Utah companies. If you are the first one to get a refund, you should be on our webinar and get a prize or something and come talk to folks about the process. Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
be a nice
No,
little
that's
thing.
definitely it. I was with a customer yesterday, very large importer, and they have multiple HTS numbers that they're bringing in, and he was pretty impressed about how he said it was very easy, that it didn't take him long. There was a couple of things he had to go back to, but overall, he was expecting a much longer, more tedious process than what he experienced. And I mean, that's just one of many. I'm sure everybody has different takes on it, but he was very appreciative of the level of details that we provided him, because he felt like it made it a lot easier for him.
Carla, I wonder if you can speak to quickly, and if you can't, that's okay, but maybe a customer who had sought a refund through a protest, and maybe is looking at what to do now. And if this goes into too much technical detail, just kick me off, or say, hey, that's legal advice or something.
Yeah.
Reach out. So
We are working with a few customers that are personally working through that themselves. And what we have done to make it a little bit make their mind more at ease, they are working with a trade compliance lawyer to help
mhm.
with that.
And I'll just say
To
what,
like the legal part of it.
yeah, what one of the things maybe I'll just share, and this is another great reason to, I'm just going to plug our dashboard again, right? Like as much as we can here. But one of the things in the compliance language from customs as well is if you filed a protest solely for refund purposes. So that's a good point of clarification. Um, Customs suggests essentially that you suspend or remove that and remove the protest, then go through the CAPE process, so the standard process that they have. So if you've been out here and you filed a protest and you're like, I'm good, I got out in front of everybody on this, it just may be worth going through and reading the CSMS and some of the things on the dashboard and deciding whether you want to pursue that. But Customs is recommending at least to go through the CAPE system, remove the protest, and considering going that path. So as you're weighing those options, speaking to your counsel, working with your brokers, just one thing to consider is if you've got a protest out there, maybe roll that back and consider the CAPE system.
Yeah. Good point, Ben. It looks like a few people have chimed into the chat, and so numerous Utah businesses submitted first thing on Monday. So the race is on.
Yeah.
Who's going to get their refund first? So we're really curious to see that from World Trade Center. So let us know. We are about at time. I also wanted to flag in the chat that we did enter the registration and the discount code. So would welcome any of you or anyone in your network to join that summit that I mentioned on May 6th and 7th. You can use the code WTC25 for 25% off the nominal registration fee for that. Thank you, everybody, for participating today and joining us. We'll be back next week with more to speak about. Thank you so much, Carla, for being part of our webinar. If you'd like to connect with Carla or Mainfreight, just let us know, and we'd be happy to get you connected with her so you can utilize their resources as well. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
Thanks, everyone.